From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 7, streaming now.
Good evening and thanks for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Amanda Starrentino. First at 7, another cold day with plenty of snow on the ground and more on the way. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory with your forecast. Hey, Kevin.
And you mentioned plenty of snow on the ground. This is the measuring stick used in Columbus, Bartholomew County. Just about 5 inches of snow from last night into the early morning hours. And that's true of Bedford over to Greensburg, Seymour, Nashville, anywhere from 5 to 6 inches of snow. Here's some other reports. There's Greensburg at 6 inches of fluffy snow last night, and it came in a burst, really, from the evening hours into the early overnight. Much quieter tonight. Will be dry. Temperatures 23 in Indy. Temperature 24 that down in Bloomington. Tomorrow, snow develops in the early afternoon. Again, we expect some accumulation, and that will go into Thursday morning. Right now, it looks like we'll see anywhere from 1 inch to, in some spots, maybe 2 inches of snow. We've still got to talk about what's happening if you're traveling south tomorrow and the shockingly colder temperatures. We're already here as far as cold is concerned. We'll be down here by the weekend.
Eek. Well, WRTV has been keeping track of issues with Indiana's unemployment system as Hoosiers struggle with the financial toll of the pandemic. To avoid fraud, the Department of Workforce Development has implemented a new identity verification system. But one woman says she's had serious problems with it. Catherine Fleenor filed for unemployment the week of Christmas. She went through the ID verification process, but for some reason, the documents she was required to upload were not verified. She called the Department of Workforce Development and waited 3 separate times to be connected to a video call to verify her account. The third time, she says she waited 8 hours before someone picked up. Finally, everything was completed, and within 5 minutes, she received an email saying her ID was verified. But almost a month later, she has yet to receive any benefits.
I did everything that they asked me to do. They just don't seem to worry about that you're not getting your money, you're not working, you're not getting your money, and of course you can't pay your bills.
The Department of Workforce Development Commissioner Fred Payne has said 71% of current claims have fraud indicators through their new ID.me system, meaning 3 out of every 4 claims require some sort of additional processing. We reached out to see what the issue is with Fleenor's account. The department is working to figure that out for us.
The rate of new COVID cases and deaths are decreasing in Indiana, according to data from the State Department of Health, and more Hoosiers are getting vaccinated. As of today, 240,000 Hoosiers have received both doses of a COVID vaccine. About 719,000 have received their first dose. The positivity rate for people getting tested for COVID for the first time is at 14.5%. And COVID hospitalizations are at their lowest since October 11th. But there are concerns about the spread of new variants of the virus and what that means for vaccination efforts.
Right now, we are modestly hopeful. It does look like the vaccines will not be as effective against the new strains, but it looks like they will offer meaningful protection against hospitalization and death.
CNN is reporting the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine rollout in South Africa is on hold after studies found it provides minimal protection against the more contagious variant found in the country. WRTV's Nikki DeVentry takes a deeper look with 2 local experts into what COVID-19 variants mean for the vaccine here in the United States.
We started having conversations over a year ago at Eskenazi about what the Wuhan coronavirus, which is what it was then known as, could mean for us. So it's been a wild ride.
Right now, Dr. Amy Beth Kressel with Eskenazi Health says the good news is COVID-19 cases are decreasing, but
the variants are of concern.
IUPUI's Thomas Dazinski agrees.
Even though numbers are dropping currently, with these new strains circulating in the population, it wouldn't take much to reignite that and get them going in the wrong direction again.
He believes right now there are more than 11 strains circulating globally. The 3 most talked about, the UK, Brazilian, and South African variants.
Don't press the panic button, but also don't let your guard down.
And while both say, yes, viruses mutate, it's not immediately known the impact any one of them may have on the effectiveness on the vaccines. However, research is ongoing with individuals who are already vaccinated.
The vaccine manufacturers along with regulatory agencies, monitor that to see, is there a problem with the vaccine not being effective against the current strain. And as of right now, we haven't seen that.
A wait and watch approach. While the news of COVID-19 variants should not cause alarm, it should be a reminder to keep up good health practices.
The more virus spreads, the more people get sick, the more opportunities the virus has to evolve in this way and basically find a different version of itself that can spread more easily or that can evade the vaccines.
And when it's time, both experts say, don't wait on getting vaccinated.
We have to get more people vaccinated and fully vaccinated before the next wave or before variants start to take hold in the population again.
At this point, it looks like the vaccines will offer some protection against these variants. It may not be the same degree, probably won't be the same degree, but there will be some protection.
Working for you, Nikki Dementri, WRTV.
Well, WRTV also reached out to the Indiana State Department of Health for updated numbers on how many Hoosiers have been diagnosed with any of these strains. A spokesperson says at least 9 cases of the UK variant have been identified in Indiana, and it is the only variant in the state as of Monday.
Indiana's legislative session is underway, and we are keeping track of some of the bills lawmakers are discussing at the State House. Despite there being no efforts to change names of cities in Indiana, the Senate has passed a bill that would make that process harder. This comes as more sports teams move away from using Native American names and mascots. WRTV's Cornelius Hawker spoke with the author of the bill and a local group that says there's no need for it.
Honestly, it sounds like a comment or, some kind of weird reply from the comment section of your local news came to life.
That was Carolina Castellano-Santana's first reaction when she heard about Senate Bill 130, which would make it harder to change the name of Indianapolis, initially brought up because of the conversation around sports teams ditching their offensive names and mascots.
As someone who is on the front lines working with the Native community of Indiana, this has not been brought up by anyone in our community that these names need to change.
But in our conversation, Senator Jack Sandlin told me he looked into this because his constituents were asking him about it.
I was contacted over the summer with some questions from people that asked me because there's a lot of discussion about renaming a lot of different things, including some cities.
Senator Sandlin says Senate Bill 130 is to protect the many people and businesses that would be impacted if a name change was to ever happen.
The investments the city's made to attract conventions and businesses and just even within the state. I mean, Indianapolis is a destination for a lot of other communities in Indiana. So I think that providing what I think is a good protection to preserve the name of Indianapolis.
Carolina, however, isn't buying that explanation.
It's often hard for a lot of people to comprehend racism that is more casual, racism that has, a politer face.
Senator Sandlin denies racism played any role in this bill.
I'm not a racist. I don't think I've ever had anybody call me a racist. And quite frankly, that's a little bit offensive.
Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, WRTV.
Under Senate Bill 130, a group would need enough signatures on a petition for a name change, and then residents would be able to vote on a referendum. The bill passed in the Senate 36-11 and is now heading to the House for consideration. As for sports teams, the Indianapolis Indians launched over the summer a committee to look into possibly changing the team's name. They've been known as the Indians since 1902.
Now still to come on the news at 7, as if losing a loved one weren't enough, this heartbreak comes in layers. How one Indiana woman lost her grandfather in the very same place where she devotes her life's work.
But first, a look at how researchers hope to use the science behind the COVID-19 vaccine to fight other diseases.
Well, Facebook is making new efforts to stop the spread of misinformation about COVID-19 vaccines. Pages that repeatedly violate the new restrictions could be removed and could be banned from Facebook altogether. The expanded crackdown on false claims follows Facebook policy introduced in October to ban ads that discourage people from getting the vaccine.
mRNA has been a game changer for the development of a COVID vaccine. Researchers say it could also be a game changer for a few other diseases, including multiple sclerosis. Dan Grossman looks at the implications of a vaccine that researchers say can tell our bodies to encode virtually anything.
It's really fun to be part of this development.
No matter how hard he might try, it is difficult for Sven Evan Borgos to contain his excitement.
That is indeed the case.
As a researcher at one of Northern Europe's largest independent research institutes, the possibilities mRNA pose to all sorts of diseases have left him feeling hopeful. One might even say giddy.
The basic principle of mRNA is that when you deliver this code, you actually instruct the body to make its own medicine. And that, I guess, is part of why it's so fascinating.
Most of us have heard about mRNA by now, how it delivers codes to your body in small fat cells, telling it what to produce. With COVID, it's that spike protein, so it knows how to defend against it. But in theory, mRNA can tell your body to produce nearly any protein, which makes its potential massive.
There are certain things that we could never do before without being able to use DNA or mRNA to put new proteins into cells.
Bruce Zetter is the head researcher at Boston Children's Hospital and a professor of cancer biology at Harvard Medical School. He says mRNA isn't a silver bullet, but it is a monumental step in accelerating cancer research.
Let's say we had a cancer cell, or cancer in someone's body, and we knew it made a particular protein that normal cells don't usually make. I'm going to call it cancer protein 1. So we have CP1, and now what I would do is I'd get mRNA to specify CP1. I'd inject it into the muscle in the arm, and those cells in the muscle would make CP1, and they'd stimulate my immune system to fight any cell that had that protein.
But it's not just cancer. mRNA could tell the body to produce proteins to make ligaments, helping patients recovering from a torn ACL. It could also help autoimmune disorders like hemophilia, as it instructs the body to produce a protein that allows blood to clot properly. Just a few weeks ago, researchers in Germany injected mice with mRNA that reduced MS activity. Currently, there is no cure for the disease.
It's almost like you could treat virtually any disease with it, because almost all diseases in your body has some kind of connection to a protein of some kind.
Researchers say we are still years away from any type of vaccines for these diseases. But when you consider the implications, Sven's hopeful excitement is more than understandable.
It's really a revolution in vaccine technology.
I'm Dan Grossman reporting.
And looking ahead, the coldest temperatures so far this winter and in a couple of years. 1 below seems cold, but I was hiding something from you. Where temperatures may fall to 12 below, coming up. The sun is setting later, but not late enough for us in the 7 o'clock news. About an hour ago is when the sun set with lots of clouds. Bloomington snow covered, that fresh 5 to 6 inches of snow anywhere from Bedford through Bloomington, Seymour, Greensburg, and Columbus on the ground. That sets the stage for cold temperatures. 27 in Bedford, while it's 21 in Lafayette, 18 right now in Muncie, and wind chill temperatures have been in the lower teens. I want to point out we've got some light accumulating snow potential tomorrow, but they've got a problem in portions of Kentucky, really the southern 2/3 of the state, down into northwest Tennessee and Arkansas. Ice storm warning there. We're familiar with how much of a problem that can create, not only on the roads, but with power being an issue. If it's thick enough on trees, causes those to cause power outages hitting the power lines. For us, generally an inch of snow, isolated higher amounts possible. If we see any wintry mix, that mix is more likely from Bedford and Seymour south. We'll keep an eye on that as the model runs continue to come in between now and tomorrow morning. We'll put this in motion. The blues of snow developing in the afternoon hours, continuing into the evening. See the pink at the bottom of your screen? If you are traveling south, once you get south of Seymour on I-65, may become a lot more tricky, and then towards Cincinnati, so you might want to rethink that. And Thursday will be between weather systems. That would be a better day. Look at the temperatures. Keep in mind, I've changed the scale there on the left-hand side. It only goes up to 30 degrees, so we're in the low 20s, and then it just bottoms out. And Sunday will be our first day with high temperatures in the single digits. Temperatures in the low 20s tomorrow with the snow developing in the afternoon, but that wind out of the northeast at 15 miles per hour will definitely make it feel colder. Temperatures in the 20s. Nothing really changes Thursday. Lots of cloud cover. There's your coldest temperature on Sunday for a high at 7. And there are the numbing numbers for the morning hours on Monday, anywhere from 4 to almost 12 below as you go to the north. 7-day forecast, a very cold Valentine's Day, 7 degrees, 13 on Monday with a chance for some more snow to get the next week kicked off, with highs only around 13 on Monday. Amanda.
Thank you, Kevin. Every day we are losing more people to the deadly coronavirus pandemic, and we want to make sure we honor their memories and their lives. Tonight, WRTV's Alyssa Donovan shares the story of a woman who lost her grandfather to COVID-19 while he was recovering in the same nursing home where she works.
James Scharfenberger was the kind of grandfather who was always around.
Attended everything. He was so supportive.
At 85 years old, he was still working from home and active in his community.
Everybody loved him. He was the president of the council of his condos where he lived.
At the end of 2019, Scharfenberger went to the hospital for congestive heart failure. Instead of going home after his treatment, he was taken to a rehabilitation facility, the one his granddaughter, Christine Scharfenberger, works at.
One of my fellow nurses said, "You're all of our grandpa." You know, everybody just loved him.
But then COVID-19 hit, and suddenly the rest of the family had to stay away.
And nobody could visit him, so at least he had somebody there have somebody meet him at the window.
Those moments would be the last. An outbreak of COVID-19 started spreading in the home in May.
And I had stayed, away from his room because it had started becoming very contagious.
The 85-year-old tested positive despite having no symptoms, and he was taken to the hospital.
I remember calling my grandma that morning, like, people are surviving, people are doing okay, don't worry. And I'll never forget that. 2 days later, that was it.
Just 2 days after learning he had COVID-19, James Scharfenberger passed away at the hospital, 4 days before his 86th birthday.
This was my grandpa. He lived a full life. He gave to society. He coached, CYO sports and contributed a lot.
Scharfenberger, one of nearly 40 residents who died from COVID-19 at the home where Christine works.
Unfortunately, I hate to say, but we got used to it. This was my grandpa, but I've worked there for 8 years, so I was close to a lot of people there. It's a rough time.
She wants people to remember her grandfather for who he was, strong and loving, not for what he died from.
Just don't forget that these are people. This is people's grandma, grandpa, son, daughter that were taken by this disease.
I'm Alyssa Donovan, WRTV.
And if you have lost someone close to you to COVID-19, connect with us. We want to share their stories so that those taken from us are never forgotten. You can reach us at facesofcovid@WRTV.com. We'll be right back.
Items marked as healthy on your favorite restaurant's menu might not be as good for you as you think. Researchers from Colorado State University studied menu information from nearly 100 restaurants between 2012 and 2018. They found many menu items that claimed to be healthier options did contain fewer calories, but often had hidden sugars, fats, or sodium. Researchers say eating at home and preparing fresh meals is still the healthier option.
During the day tomorrow, our snow chances will increase as we go through the day. 25, that's the optimistic high. I think in many spots we won't reach that. By light accumulations, an inch, maybe some spots could see up to 2 inches of snow. And there's the probability rising as we get to 1 o'clock in the afternoon for snow through the evening hours. Amanda.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you for making WRTV your choice for news. Our next newscast is tonight at 11. We hope to see you there.